So, fourth time's a charm. That's never been said. Um, so apparently everything that could go wrong would go wrong today, or this week, really. Um, Today we are doing an improv episode of Konnichiwa, Habibi. We were supposed to do one on, we was doing one yesterday, but due to the election, Treka was um, unavailable due to his media duties. Um, so we rescheduled for today, but unfortunately, part of the situation in Syria is that there is, I guess, power rationing or something of that sort. And so there'll be time to time where they'll just shut down the power grid and that's it. Like you have no power, and that's just it. Like you have to just deal with it. And so yeah, that's what's going on. So hey Christian, let's try this again. Yoan, where are you? Again. I haven't done a Japanese lesson in a minute. Could do that, but I'm not doing that today. I don't have anything prepared for that. But we did think of doing another reading. We wanted to retry the introduction scene of Agent Asanov, because Restream was so uncooperative and really made it a blooper session rather than a reading. So hopefully this goes well. All right. So apparently, it favors phones. And you're sideways.
Yeah, wait.
All right. Well, I don't have a tripod. Wait, I do have a tripod. One moment. Um, Hashtag improvisation. Um, Thanks again, Johan, for coming on short notice. Uh, World events are clearly unpredictable in 2020, and so no one expected that the U.S. election would be decided on a Saturday at noon.
Yeah, congrats on the new president, man.
I'm gonna refrain from comment because if after the lawsuits he is sworn in, that is my president, and there will have to be a peaceful transfer of power. Um, but yeah, until then, I will refrain from comment. Um, George Bush was my president. Barack Obama was my president. Donald Trump was my president. And if the lawsuits prove there was no impropriety in the election, Joe Biden will be my president. And that is that. Um, I'm not going to opine on that on this platform. This is a platform for all people to express themselves freely. And um, I did propose it to do a stream with a BLM supporter and a police officer, but we'll leave
They
that
declined.
to the future. Um, and make sure that future live streams are or the scheduled live streams go well. So I wanted to, like I said, do a reading with Yoan of the scene where Agent Astronaut it was introduced. We did get a lot of good reviews um, from uh, from viewers in regards to Captain, not Captain. He would love the title Captain, Commander Zaharia and Agent Astronaut. And so I want to show his introduction scene. Hopefully, in the we can do a reading of the prologue in the future with Commander Zaharia, um, quote unquote. And so, yeah. So um, I will start from the unnumbered page, or unnumbered page. All right. The elevator door opened and the twins walked in. Yukimi pressing the button before Goki could. As the elevator descended, Yukimi refused to look at her brother, arms crossed, focused on the steel doors before them. Yuki-chan, not everyone trembles at your voice like Mr. Ramsey. I've told you countless times to respect. By the way, he's a reliable asset to the company from the start. Goki sighed as he returned his sister's phone. She snatched the cold device from his hand, put it in her pocket, knowing that he only did it because of the lack of signal in the basement. When they arrived on base 2 days ago, Zaharia refused to give her the Wi-Fi password, limiting her to an Ethernet connection in her dormitory, a special request from the prince. So do you want me to? So now you want me to get involved in corporate? It's live. So now you want to get involved in corporate affairs? Yukimi hissed. Which reminds me, stop undermining my authority. You made your decisions, so I had to make mine. Don't go back on them now, not when I've increased the company's profit margin and our disposable cash assets by myself. Because you cut deals at my fights instead of watching me and learning. I took that money and reinvested it into the company. Somebody has to pay the bills. Have I asked you for your cut? You have no need. You keep punking the other managers at the fights again and again, betting on them instead of watching them. That's what they get for underestimating a woman. The elevator beeped as they arrived in the basement. They made their way to the dojo, relieved to find it empty. There were sweat marks on the blue mat, and the water fountain's whirring had begun as they walked in. The heavy bag was still swinging, and Yukimi groaned at the idea of finding him there. Please tell me Astonov isn't here, Yukimi whispered to her brother. If you had mastered hand-to-hand combat, you could beat the frost giant and shut him up, or you could let me kick his ass next time he hits on you, Goki replied. As much as I'd love to see that, we don't need another incident like Brazil, do we? Yukimi hissed, looking him in the eye. We still need him to train Azam's teammates if they're going to be any help to us. Goki's smile at the mention of Brazil reached an abrupt end. A stern look of disappointment appeared on his face. Are they any help? Ramsey's son is pathetic, he replied. So is the girl. So is the girl. She almost was as bad as Asenov when she saw you. It's disgusting and unladylike. You sound like Dad, Goki replied, smiling. By the way, Azamni told me she passed the ultra hard obstacle course you requested at the top of her class. Did you? Don't compare me to her! Let's do this. Yukimi punched her palm, eyeing the swinging heavy bag, not caring about the sound of the toilet flushing in the background. As the bathroom door opened, a loud ringing came from Yukimi's wrist and Goki's duffel bag. Yukimi put on a poker face, sighing as she pulled back her sleeve, revealing a bronze gauntlet on her forearm. She pressed the button here, bearing the head of a dove, and raised it to her mouth. Zaharia, what is it now? This better be good. It's Commander. You have no power here. Your family granted me full authority over this program, so shut up and listen. Yukimi hissed at the utter impotence her aunt and mother put her in before they disappeared. The only men she respected were her older relatives because Confucius said, and so did someone in the Middle East. She made peace with that after biting her tongue so much it still had ridges on it. But Zaharia wasn't family, not in the traditional sense. That didn't prevent her family from giving him the authority he boasted of. Fine, yes, sir, she replied, rolling her eyes. Good, good. As I was saying, you two would want to hear this. We just had some intel delivered on their disappearances. My sources confirmed that the majority of the disappearing men from around Eastern Europe have been last seen around the Pirin Mountains.
Of course they would come to the Balkans. I mean, we have the best mountains on earth.
Said a thick accent from over Yukimi's shoulder. Yukimi shrieked and turned around to see him. Less than a foot away from her, towering over 6 feet, a prince-like smile glistened among the beads of sweat and a 5 o'clock shadow, which is not applicable today because no shave November. We forgot to communicate that one.
Yeah, kinda.
That's enough. What the hell? Yuki-chan, I can do it right now. Please let me kick his ass. Kelly in HR has the hots for me. She'll look the other way. No one will ever find out. I promise, just let me at him. Ikage Nishiro, Gokini, Yukimi replied, pushing him back as she stared up squarely at Asuna's blue eyes. The intrigued man smiled with a defiant and expectant smile back at Yukimi. How long were you there, you creep? She yelled, pushing him away. The proud Balkan man picked his gi and wiped the sweat off his face, chuckling still, while the twins gave him the death stare. The commander's voice was still active on the Gauntlet's communications system. Yoan, was that you? I told you to bring whoever to base, but to keep your hands off his daughter. Asanov grabbed Yukimi's arm to her shock and as she beat on his hairy chest, hoping to let loose, to no avail.
Oh, it's so good, Fats. She put her hands on me first, and she still is. Quite the insatiable one, she is, isn't she?
He replied, laughing as he pressed the button to turn off the transmission, letting go of Yukimi's arm.
By the way, Goku, if you're actually talking about Kelly at the American office, she does look the other way at me.
That's it! Yukimi groaned as she pulled the raging ox away from his prey, Goki screaming. The latter's eyes goaded him, complete with smirking lips that would give the Mona Lisa a run for her money. Yukimi dragged her brother out of the dojo while Asanov looked on, waving goodbye. Yukimi struggled to move all 185 pounds of muscle, but the training she had been suffering under at least gave her some pull. Finally arriving to the elevator, she scolded her older brother. Gokini, focus! He isn't worth it. He's just another employee. Once the mission is over, I will have him get Me Too'd and canceled in one fell swoop. You're right, Goki replied. I can't believe it was here in Europe the entire time. We spent ages looking at every mountain in Japan and America, and all these wasted years. Following nothing but a cryptic note he left behind. Think of your uncle's name and go up. I can't believe it took 10 years to get to this. The bastard could have at least taken her to Fujiyama. But Bulgaria? Seriously? Our family doesn't even know any Bulgarians.
Yeah, you do,
shouted Asanov, approaching from behind. Correction, Asanov. I wish I didn't know any Bulgarians, Yukimi replied.
You say that, but every time you go to the briefing room, you actually pass by my quarters. How am I not supposed to see that as a sign? I mean, though why you actually bring a chaperone makes no sense.
Asanov replied, chuckling at them both. Because the dojo is right past it. It's not our fault that Zakaria built it there. Now let us through, said Yukimi.
Yeah, it kind of is. I'm the combat instructor. By the way, you can call me Asenov. Only after hours. Right now, on duty, it's Sensei.
I'll call you what I want when it's my company that pays for this operation and your salary.
Yeah, Princess, you're right. Goku, what is that you're really actually wearing under your t-shirt?
First, it's Goki. Second off, back off my sister, or she'll show you how useless your training is. Either of us can take you on. It makes no difference. Third, if you must know, it's a vest. My adoring fans have yet to see Mighty Ox Goki get one scar in the octagon, so I protect the merchandise. And finally, get the hell out of the way. At the beep of the elevator, the doors opened and Asanov got in first, urging them to hurry. Once they reached the top floor, Asanov left the parting shot before he went to the commander's alcohol cabinet to pour himself a drink.
Oh, one more thing, Goku. I've actually watched your matches since you launched your career kit. I mean, you may be undefeated now, but your technique still needs a lot of work.
I hate him. Oh, I do too, Goki-kun, replied a familiar voice behind a red chair. So,
You had to do this in Fadi's accent.
I know. Well, actually no, the voice behind the red chair is not him.
Oh.
But Fadi is in the conference room, and that is going to be really fun. But I don't think I can pull that many voices. I would have to get some stand-in for the characters. But yeah, Christian, what do you think? If you're still here, if he's not, well, this will be recorded. Well, let me tell. I think Treka was right. I think that people really are outside celebrating that their candidate won, and so really there isn't much of an audience today, but the internet is forever.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
Unfortunately, for every politician out there, the internet is forever.
yeah, I think I won't comment on that.
Yeah.
You know my opinion
Yeah.
of the matter at
Well,
hand, so
one of the things that we really emphasize on this program, and we, in all seriousness, we do push for unity among all people because we're all humans, and we try to really understand um, that we're not so different when you prick our fingers. Like, I have yet to find out that somebody bleeds blue. Um, I'm sure you're gonna figure out somebody in history that bleeds blue. Contrarian.
I was going to say about a certain case, but
Go
I just
ahead,
remember.
entertain me.
I think it was in the 14th or the 15th century in England,
Uh
where
huh.
they wrote about two kids, I think a boy and a girl, who came out of some sort of a cave, and they were blue skinned, and they bled blue. So if you remember, I think it was on Dr. Phil. There was this guy who actually turned blue because he was eating some sort of a chemical that made his skin change color. So perhaps there is something that can actually make your blood change color as well. Who knows?
Oh my god.
I mean,
That's
you
just.
can have darker blood. Yeah,
I
who knows?
I hear that if you eat enough carrots, you can turn orange. I don't know how true that is.
Yeah, you gotta ask the president.
uh, well, I know that his teeth can't be yellow because he doesn't smoke and um
Mm,
he doesn't drink. Um,
yeah.
let's see. Um, Someone just emailed me what's or inbox me. What's the link? Actually, I missed the good part.
Just send them the link. We can.
We could do another scene
Well, we can do it
actually.
again.
No, I don't know if I want to do that again. I don't know want to reread that entire scene again. Actually, if we do get more viewers, I think we could do another scene. If you're up
Yeah,
to
we
it.
can do that.
Okay. Um, Actually, let me see if Fadi is available so that he could do his role.
Yeah, you have to probably message him on Discord.
True. And then, I'm not gonna do that because what's gonna happen is that he's going to read your lines and read mine because I don't know how well I did on the dialogue tags. Um, I might have done it right, but who knows? You know what? For kicks, let's just see if he's available. Are you available? crowd demands an audience with the commander. No, the crowd humbly requests.
Yeah, that's a better way to say it.
Yeah, and that will stroke his ego. So if that doesn't work, I don't know what will.
You can teach me some Japanese words in the meantime.
Oh yeah, sure. Actually, um,
私はヨアナセン、私はブルガリアです。ブルガリア人です。
that's actually really good. That's actually like correct.
私は22歳です。I think
okay,
that's
now you're
everything.
showing off.
I
So I used a couple of phrases that are very common in anime.
バカ
um, I can actually do the etymology of each person's name as well. Just give a little bit of backstory. No comment? Okay. Mm.
お前はもう死んでいる。
I think everybody knows what that is.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too, actually. Like that's.
I'm just trying to think of every Japanese word I know right now. Yeah. I
So
think that's it.
we actually discussed a couple of words. Okay, it is visible. You know what? Let's leave it there. You know what? I'm sure that more people know what that sound was than anything. Meow. Meow. All right. So a couple of words that, and I'm going to look them up just because it's been a while since
Alrighty.
I write in kanji like manually instead of using a keyboard. So
I see.
that it's almost like not learning how to spell correctly.
何をしているの？
俺はこの名前を探している。Okay. So snow. Okay. So Yuki means name. Meow. So stroke order is, and don't know anybody giggle. Stroke order is very important when writing Japanese. So I will try to not impulsively do the whole thing at once, and everyone write with me. We're gonna do Yukimi's name first. One line there, and then another line there, and then a line there, and then and see that right there? That's a problem. You can't go above the line. You can't do that because it just makes no sense.
Okay.
and then from here down. Okay. Right now it's looking almost like the word for rain, and then you'll see the little droplets that are going to be done in there. So right now that's rain, but then to turn it into snow, the rain symbol, and then this, and that is Yuki. So let's do it one more time. Actually, I compulsively did that. I should probably do,
Okay.
yeah, just to be fair.
To make it easier.
Yeah. And then here, and then and
So that's just Yuki, right?
yeah.
So
So that means
how do you write
snow.
the full name?
Was that?
How do you write the full name?
Treka is available now. Crap.
Alrighty.
And right now. All right. So that is Yuki, and so to write it in hiragana, it's Yuki, and that is snow. All right. So then I'm going to erase this, and I'm going to do.
Can you show me how do you write Goku's name?
I'll do that really quick, and I'll teach the whole thing later.
Yeah,
So
just do it.
go key. So this is
Okay,
go. This is
that's key. Nice.
so this is ox, and this is tree. So a lot of
Okay,
anime
makes sense.
uses word puns in order to make their characters like obvious as to who they are, what they represent, or what their powers are. So that's literally what I did, because yeah, that's an industry standard, I guess. Let me get a dry towel to wipe that on, because it's not very visible on the camera. Let me see. Comment on the stream, and I'll let you on. Alright. So let me just rewrite it with a bigger marker. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then tree. 1, 2, starting from here, 3, 4. And that's go. Ox, tree. So that's why they call themselves the Mighty Ox. And then the tree part will make sense later.
Nice.
This is tokusatsu, and there are magic shenanigans that go on. Meow. I think Treka probably thought that it was going to be 2 p.m., which is my fault because that's actually what I said
Yeah.
originally.
Do you know what happened last week when we had our episode? And you said 2 p.m. or whatever you said. I think it was 2 p.m. And when I googled it, it actually said 8 o'clock in the evening, and we had the stream at 7 o'clock. I mean 7 p.m. here. So
What?
I think it's because, yeah, It's kind of strange, man. That's why I asked you earlier today if it's in 30 minutes or 90 minutes or things like that.
Okay, so Treka is
That's probably the
on. What's up, Treka? We're just doing an improv Japanese lesson. Let me teach you guys the word for yukimi real quick, or the how to write it.
By the way, I think it's reversed.
No. So that means snow, and that means beautiful. So you already know she likes her fur, and she likes to wear nice party dresses. So that is Yukimi, and that was Goki, and then we will do another one in the future. But now it is time to welcome Treka onto the podcast.
And to say sayonara.
Sayonara. All right. All right. Hey, Treka, what's up?
Hey, what's up? I'm good, my friend. How are you?
I am good. How is everything?
It's good. It's good. Let's just hope the electricity doesn't cut off in like 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm not sure. It depends on our luck. They'll either cut it in like 10 minutes or in an hour and 10 minutes. So I have my laptop in front of me in case the electricity gets cut off. The light of the screen will keep my face showing.
okay, good. Thank you. So we will try to keep it as brief as possible. I'll put all the formalities in the comment section just to keep it going as far as my plugs. But hello, everyone. This is our guest, Treka, coming directly from Syria. What time is it over there?
It's almost 9 p.m. right now.
Oof. Yeah, he is making a huge sacrifice coming on to this podcast, and we really thank him for it. He is a social media personality. He is a comedian. He is a journalist. He is an actor. What are you not? Can you fly, Treka?
Well, I like to do a lot of stuff, like I like to do comedy, political satire, tourism videos, music, rap, keyboard. I play the keyboard. It's all many stuff.
Low key, Damascus Blues was one of my favorites. I hope I don't get demonetized for that. So yeah, actually, so that nobody, just in case the power cuts off, if you want, go ahead and plug your social media now.
Yeah. Well, I have the same page. It's the same name. It's on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. It's all under the name Treka Z.
Perfect.
Well,
And as I said in the promotion, this is not an endorsement of anything he says, but it is an opportunity for different perspectives. One of the reasons that I believe that Treka became so popular in the West was because he offered a fresh perspective that really wasn't allowed on the mainstream media. Has Fox or CNN ever called you to interview you?
no, but I did an interview with an American channel called One American News Network, if you've heard of
Oh
it.
yes. I do recall that one. I did not watch the interview. I watched a different one. It might have been that one actually. It was a while ago.
Well, I've done many interviews, but I think like the One American News Network is like the one of the like mainstream channels that I've done interviews with. They came to Syria, I think like 3 years ago or something like that, when there was like a chemical attack in Syria and so on. So they came, they were doing some investigation, and part of it was also like doing an interview with me as a Syrian living in Syria to know like what the situation is. Just give me 1 second. I'm gonna share this video on my page so
Oh,
that
go ahead.
I'm gonna share this video on my page so that like people can join in.
Definitely, we do want to get some comments, and I will do the same. With you, it was electricity. With us, it was the malfunctioning. My previous guest was not being allowed to join when I was streaming from my iPad, and it's like, well, let me try my phone, and wouldn't you know, it worked. But yeah, that was fun.
1 second.
That was fun. And okay, where's the live stream?
Okay, I just shared it.
Okay. I am surprised. Okay. All right. And I will share it on my personal page.
Okay, we're on.
All right.
Whenever you're ready, my friend.
All right. So you were saying about the chemical attacks, and it's really interesting because for some reason that's all we know about Syria, quote unquote, um, in the sense that like it's existed for so many thousands of years, and yet it only came to consciousness, I believe, in recent times.
Yeah,
Go
it's
ahead.
because of the war. It's because of the war, but you know, Syria before the war in 2011, before the war started in 2011, Syria was known to be one of the safest countries in the Middle East. It also used to be one of the cheapest countries in the Middle East. Like,
Really?
I still remember, like when there was a war in Lebanon
Mm-hmm.
in 2006, a lot of Lebanese people came to Syria for safety. Same when there was a war in Iraq, a lot of Iraqis came to Syria for safety. Same with the Palestinians. Like whenever there was a problem in the Middle East, most of these countries, the people of these countries would travel to Syria because Syria was known to be one of the safest countries in the Middle East, and it used to welcome people from everywhere, whether they're Iraqis, Lebanese, Armenians. Um, so it's just unfortunate how Syria became, you know, compared to how it is now. Like Syria used to be very safe, very cheap, and now it's like considered one of the most dangerous countries in the world, you know, unfortunately. But this is because of the, you know, 10 years of war that it has been going through. So it's something very difficult, you know.
And that's like 10 years, and it's like it's almost like people have forgotten or just don't even think about it because we have a 24-hour news cycle, and it's like they distract whenever the story isn't profitable enough. But this is still going on, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's still going on. And right now, we're going through more problems, like what they call it, you know, the economic sanctions. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because like for the past 10 years, we've been having problems, you know, with, you know, ISIS and Al-Qaeda and all these jihad, and you also have foreign countries inside Syria. So it's not only like the Syrian army, you have the Russian army, you have the American army, you have the Turkish army, you have the Kurdish army, and in addition, you have all these groups like ISIS, Al Qaeda, Jabhat al Nusra. So it's like more than 10 armies, and they're all fighting each other. And you know, some armies are with other armies, and it's just so complicated, and
It
it's
really
like a
is.
very, very dirty war.
What really fascinated me about your content was when you would say things that weren't allowed to be said, and that because people weren't on the ground or people didn't have the intel. They had stupid intel and they acted on that. But when I'm talking about the white helmets video, and Jason Islam
Yeah.
and all those factions that were, I think in that one you talked about how they were posing in like the rubble and then like taking selfies after. Like, could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, like on the mainstream media, they portray the white humanitarians that are only there to save the lives of innocent Syrian lives. But in reality, the White Helmets were a group funded by the West, and they were here in Syria just to do propaganda. There were many times where they got exposed for faking videos, for acting like somebody is injured when in reality they would be putting makeup on him. And
Oh my
there
God.
was a video that I exposed of them staging like a an airstrike that the Syrian army did. So they put like rubbles and bricks on top of somebody, and of course they did
I
some
saw
makeup,
something like that.
uh, and they were like three, two, one, action. Then as soon as they said action, the guy that was laying on the floor started screaming, and then they started putting all these sound effects and carrying him and grabbing the children and so on. So they were doing a lot of fake news. And I also did in the video, I also exposed how many members of the White Helmets are what they call it. Just 1 second. Um, yeah, many members of the White Helmets, they pose as doctors in the morning, and at night they hold the weapons and fight alongside with the jihadists. So a lot of propaganda was going on in Syria from day one. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the West, they don't really know what is going on because they don't live in the Middle East. So if, let's say, CNN and then Fox News and MSNBC and then ABC and all of them report the same story, then it must be true. That's how like
Right,
yeah, that's how like the majority of the people in the West think. But you have to really live in that area to know what is really going on.
right.
And
I think that
by the way, that's one of the main reasons why I started doing all these videos is because when the war was going on, I was watching reporting, and I always found out that everything they're reporting about is a lie, and there's like they have their own narrative and so on. So after a couple of months, is like I got really pissed off about it. I was like, why are they brainwashing the people in the West, and why are they lying to them, and why are they selling them this war agenda? So I was like, you know what? I'm a comedian. I have my own platform. Why don't I start doing videos
right.
explaining what is going on in Syria? So there were also many misconceptions about Syrians, in the West. A lot of
Oh yeah.
people thought that Syria is this extremist country, just like, for an example, Saudi Arabia or like Iran. It's like where, women are forced to wear hijab, or they're oppressed, or let's say gays get killed, or atheists and so on. A lot of people thought that this was Syria. They also thought that like Syria is this desert. It's just like the Sahara Desert. So in
Yeah.
addition, I started doing, yeah. So see, the electricity just got cut off.
Oh my God.
I had this feeling that it was going to get cut off. That's why now I have my laptop in front of me so that at least you can have some lighting on my face. Is it good enough?
We can see you, and not touching the subject too much, but there are so many American misconceptions about the Middle East, about Syrian people. For example, there are in my city there are many black supremacists. People don't know they exist. They do exist, and they believe that everybody who doesn't come from Europe is de facto black, and so they would be like, oh, well, we have to the Syrian side with us because they're black. And it's like I can see Treka in the dark. You're not a Nigerian. You're
Yeah.
not Nigerian black, and so it's like these or another misconception. And this is more in Latino America because I'm Puerto Rican and I was in Puerto Rico for 7 years. Down there, they would hear all the news from Telemundo, and it's like almost secondhand news, I would say. And so they would conflate Afghanistan, Pakistan with all the other Arab world countries. And to this day, I would still hear people mention those two countries when they talk about the Arab world. And I'm like, listen, just because they're mentioned all in the same news cycle doesn't mean they're all Arab countries.
Yeah,
And then the third misconception, that everybody in the Middle East is Muslim. That's my favorite one
exactly.
because
Yeah.
there's so much religious diversity. Can you
Like
speak
in Syria,
on
for
those things?
example, yeah, in Syria we have a lot of it's a very diverse country because in Syria it's not only Muslims. You have Muslim Sunnis, Muslim Shias, then you have the Alawis, then you have Christian Orthodox, Christian Catholics, you have Druze, and you have Jews, and you have people from other ethnicities like the Kurds and the Armenians and so on. So it's a very diverse country. So a lot of people have this idea that Syria is all just Muslims. No, it's very, very diverse. Of course, the Muslims are the majority in the country, but that doesn't mean like it's an Islamic country. It's actually a secular country under the current government. And that's
It is.
why most of the
Wow.
Syrians right now are fighting ISIS and Al Qaeda. It's because we don't want to make Syria an Islamic country. We want to keep it secular so that it can work for everybody and no minority will be oppressed. So this is something
Right.
very important.
It's really interesting because in the West, when people talk about minority and people talk about oppression, they think me.
Mm.
And so people like me have been used, especially in this election cycle. I won't not launch specifics, but been used to pander and to fearmonger and say that people have told me, oh, you're gonna be locked in a cage. I'm like, I'm Puerto Rican. Puerto Rico is an American territory, and so like Middle Eastern people, like us Latinos are subject to so many misconceptions, and you just marvelous like the world really needs to broaden their perspectives, and that's why I launched this platform is to bring different perspectives and experiences. Like stereotypes aren't real all the time. Like some of them, they come from somewhere, but a lot of them aren't.
Yeah,
Um,
like I have tried my best to do a lot of videos like showing the other side of Syria that the mainstream media doesn't show. Like for an example, I have done videos like showing the nightlife where I would go to bars and nightclubs
mhm.
and show the West how like people are partying in Syria, how like alcohol is allowed, women wear what they want, and so on. I went to the beach in Latakia and I also filmed the beach there, and to show how men and women are there. You can find women that are wearing a bikini over there. You can find women that are wearing a hijab over there. So it's very diverse and very, um, it's totally the opposite of, for an example, an ignorant country like Saudi Arabia, for an example. So there
I
is
didn't say that.
yeah. So a lot of people just watch the news, and the news only shows them, the barbarians. They only shows them the ISIS members and the Al Qaeda member and the people screaming with pubic hair on their chin and so on. So they would then, I wouldn't blame them when they have this conception that all Syrians are like that. But the reality is it's totally different. You have people from all kinds of backgrounds.
I have a good friend that he's from Safita. I don't know how far that is from Damascus. But I
Mm,
I used to get a lot of my information about life on your channel. And he told me the same thing about how
mm.
Syria was very safe, how his town is nearly unaffected by all the turmoil. And it just makes you think, listen, even though this country is going through all this stuff, like not everybody's living the same experience, and not everybody is a victim. I see a lot of people using people of color, as they call us, as pawns and as political talking points. And it's like we don't like. Well, you tell me what do you feel like when you see American media use the Middle East or Syria in particular for political talking points?
Yeah. Well, I feel like the mainstream media in America or in the West in general, it's like they have no idea what is going on in Syria. They have no idea what is going. It's either one of these two. Either they are so ignorant, or they know the truth, but they don't want to tell their people the truth because it's like they're trying their best to sell this war agenda. They want to keep more wars. Like I remember a couple of years ago when Donald Trump came out and was like, "We're gonna pull out U.S. troops from Syria," which, in my opinion, is something very positive. It's positive for the Syrian people and it's positive for the American people because, first of all, Syria didn't invite America to intervene militarily
Right.
in Syria. And second of all, America is fighting a war in Syria that, Obama funded, and it's not like Syria threatens America's security in the first place. So it's like America has no reason to be in Syria. But as soon as Donald Trump came out and said, we want to pull out troops from Syria, immediately you found that all the mainstream media news came out and started attacking him and criticizing him. Even Fox News, which is known to be like, right leaning, it's like it
Right.
represents the Republican Party. So even the Fox News was also criticizing Donald Trump for this. So it's like the mainstream media in America in general, all they want to do is to keep on selling fear to the public and keep on, keeping the war machine going. They don't want to see, the wars in the Middle East end. They don't want to see all this crisis end because to them, the more there is crisis and the more they report about it, the more they make more money. So, and of course, like the mainstream media are all controlled,
They
whether
are.
we're talking about a Democratic Party leaning channel or a right-wing party leaning channel, they're all controlled at the end of the day. So
Money has no
a lot of
party.
misinformation. Yeah, and but the good thing is like right now, especially in 2020, like most of the Americans, and not only Americans, most of the people in general, they have lost their trust with the mainstream media. Most of the people
Yeah.
are now getting their news from independents on the ground. Thankfully for social media, this has helped
Yeah.
a lot of independent people, come out and expose the truth because they don't trust the mainstream media anymore. They're always lying. Like biggest example, like look at the 2016 election. They were wrong about everything. Even in the 2020 election, they were also wrong about the polls. And like right now, they're also reporting stuff that like Joe Biden is now the new president of America when it hasn't been completely official. It's only a projection, But
Right.
the mainstream media is reporting about it like it is official. So like when a lot of people are watching this and they're seeing this and they're like, okay, these people they're always lying, they're always lying. So this opened the door for many people like me and like you and like people that do videos online to show another perspective. So this is something positive.
I think so too. And it really, I saw, and it's not an endorsement, but I did hear that Steven Crowder outdid all the news outlets, all the mainstream media news outlets on election day. And I'm like, this is a new day for independent creators. And so
Yeah,
it's a chance for a non-controlled narrative, for new perspectives to be out there, and it's not black and white. Like not everything is so clear cut. Like the war in
yeah.
Syria is like everybody understands that it's a mess and it's a proxy war more than anything, with no
Hmm.
clear defined goal in mind. Um, I remember when the recent missile strike happened, um, and it was, I guess, based on some intel that was unverified. I don't know. I'm not going to get into the political aspects of that, but I do know that it wasn't the only time that propaganda was used, particularly children, um,
Yeah.
children of
They
my
always use
ethnic
children.
background. What?
They always use children. They always use children for their propaganda.
Exactly.
Like whenever they want to convince an American that going to war is something good, they'll always show them a picture of a child crying so that they can, play with their emotions. But in general, I don't really trust the mainstream media. They're all liars. All they want is to do the agenda of their masters, and that's it. So The American people, like most of them right now, they have reached to the point where they are sick and tired of wars, and they're sick and tired of participating in more and more wars. So uh, hopefully, like now, I'm not sure. Like I fear that now, if Joe Biden becomes president again, he's going to continue the same foreign policy that Obama did, and so on. So only time will tell to see what the future is holding for us.
And I don't want to get too political, but this is history, and these are things that happened.
Yeah.
What was it like to go from the peaceful Syria of, let's say, 2008 to all of a sudden America is rescuing people in 2011? Like, what went through your mind?
Well, of course, it's a very difficult situation to be in. To see your country get destroyed every day. It's not something that I would wish on anybody. Like I told you, Syria used to be one of the safest countries in the Middle East, and then suddenly it became one of the most dangerous countries in the Middle East. So we witnessed a lot of stuff. Bombs falling, losing a friend, losing a relative, economic sanctions, a lot of propaganda. Then we started having foreign countries enter our country, like America and Russia and Turkey, and all these jihadist groups enter and infiltrate our neighborhoods and do suicide bombs and death threats and beheadings and all this stuff. Of course, it's something very, very difficult. A lot of people couldn't handle it. That's why you find a lot of Syrians that run away, from Syria, and I don't blame them. Some people say
Right.
like all these Syrians that traveled away from Syria, they're not patriotic and they're cowards and so on. Like me personally, I don't really judge them because like you can never really judge, someone running away from a war zone. It's like some people have their own family, they want to protect their kids, and
Right.
it's of course something very difficult. I would not wish it on anybody.
Right.
But
And talking
but
about
hopefully, like
what-
hopefully, like the war will end very soon, like maybe 2 years maximum. I'm not
I
sure because
hope.
like right now the last city still under the control of these jihadists is called Idlib.
Oh,
So if the
still?
Syrian army was, yes, it's the last city still under the control of the jihadists. It's called Idlib. And the main reason why, like, the Syrian army hasn't yet liberated it is because these jihadists are being protected by, like, Turkey.
Oh,
Turkey is really protecting them. They have their military base there. They send them money, weapons, and tanks, and so on. So, but it's only a matter of time until the Syrian army is able to enter Idlib and liberate it. When we do that, our last problem in Syria would be the economic sanctions that has been imposed by
right,
the West, especially by America.
right.
Because like the economic sanctions also made the situation in Syria very bad. Like
I heard.
yeah, like the currency now is like destroyed. Prices are very high. You can't import, you can't export, you can't make money online. MasterCard and PayPal, they're not allowed.
I saw.
Um, yeah, so like in general, the economy is really, really, really bad because of the economic sanctions that are imposed. So these are our two challenges. The first one is to liberate the city of Idlib from the jihadists, and the second one is to find a way to let the West remove the sanctions that they imposed on Syria. Because as long as these sanctions are in place, like more Syrians are gonna get poor. Life is just going to be getting worse now in Syria, it's like every month we have a new crisis. Either we have like a bread crisis where like you have people waiting in line for like 7 hours to get bread, or we have a fuel crisis or a oil crisis or gas crisis or like you see now electricity crisis.
Yeah,
So you would have, for an example, the electricity will come on for 3 hours, then cut off for another 3 hours, and it's like that the whole day. So you have people that are only having 10 hours of electricity a day or 12 hours maximum of electricity a day. And like right now it's coming, it's winter is coming. So the weather is going to be very cold, and a lot of people need to find ways to heat, warm their houses. And with the electricity getting cut off or having like a fuel crisis, a lot of people are going to find it almost impossible to keep their houses warm in winter. So I'm just giving you like some small examples so that you can have an idea of how life has become, after the war.
Yeah, it's trust me. When my friend tells me about all these things, I'm like, let it end soon. I know that typically, the current strategy has seemed to be put pressure and then draw to the meeting table and come out with some agreement on both sides. I've seen that Afghanistan, North Korea, um, uh, Sudan, and other countries, that has been the case. Hopefully, some deal can be reached. I would certainly
Mm.
love to see economic investment into Syria in the
Yeah.
near future. Um, what's really interesting. Well, first of all, before we go to that point, I do recall also, because you were talking about the people suffering, and my friend wanted me to make awareness of this, is that apparently people are selling their organs, like their kidneys, to eat. Have
Yeah.
you heard about that?
Yeah. Yeah, of
I,
course. That's
I,
what
I
people
can't
do.
even imagine. And
Yeah. But that's what war does. Some people have become desperate. They would sell like a body part so that they can get money, and I don't know, it's really effed up.
yeah,
But of course, it's not the majority of the Syrians that are doing this. It's only people that have reached to the point where, they're completely desperate. So it happens, yeah.
I, I can't imagine that. I know that in Latin America, it's unfortunately a common thing too. But I really truly hope that things do get better. I
They will
recall
get better. They will get better. Nothing lasts forever. Everything in this world is temporary, and this war is not going to last forever.
that is
An
true.
agreement is going
There's
to reach,
there's a
and plus,
Puerto Rican saying that goes, no hay mal que dure 100 años ni cuerpo que lo resista. So it means there is not an evil that lasts 100 years, nor a body that can resist it. Um, the old people say that a lot,
the,
and I believe in that
yeah,
wholeheartedly.
like I
One of the
told you,
things that go
like
ahead.
I told you, if the Syrian army is able to liberate the city of Idlib, then technically the war is over. There's nothing
Wow,
that the West can do anymore. There's nothing that the jihadists can do anymore. There's nothing that Turkey would be able to do anymore if we liberate the city of Idlib. And it's only a matter of time, like right now the city of Idlib is surrounded by the Syrian army. So it's only a matter of time until they enter and liberate it. Once they do, like all these people that funded the war in Syria wouldn't have anything to do anymore. So it's like they would either keep on imposing the sanctions or, reach to the point where they would sit down on the table with the Syrian government and do an agreement. Because look, this is the problem with what the West is doing right now. What they're doing is they're imposing economic sanctions, and the reason they say they're imposing these sanctions is because they want to punish the Syrian government, because the Syrian government is not legitimate. They hate them. They are killing their own people and all this stuff that they are saying. But in reality, when they are imposing these sanctions, they are actually hurting the Syrian people and not the Syrian government. Like, don't think that the Syrian government right now is sitting without electricity in their home. Don't think that the Syrian government is having a fuel or bread crisis. It's only the Syrian people that are suffering and going through the consequences of the sanctions, not the government. The government and high-ranking officials, they all have their own money. They can afford to buy generators to on the electricity in their house when the electricity gets cut off. So they're not really, really suffering. They have money and so on. It's the majority, it's the 90% of the country are the people that are really suffering from the economic sanctions. So if the Western government really want to use their brain, they should know that these economic sanctions are not being effective if what they really want to do is punish the Syrian government. But in reality, what they want to do is this. They want to suffocate the Syrian people to the last minute on so that all the Syrian people that support the government would reach to the point that they can't take it anymore. They're so hungry that they don't care anymore that they would then go and overthrow the Syrian government because they can't take the sanctions and the life anymore. So this is what they're doing. They're imposing sanctions, to suffocate the Syrian people and make them reach to the breaking point that, you know what, we don't want to support this government anymore. Let's overthrow it. Because they saw that by funding ISIS and Al Qaeda, it didn't work.
Can you
By
talk
them
more about
striking
that?
Syria, it also didn't work.
Because
What?
I was sharing some of the information I heard on some of your videos to my father, and he like didn't believe it. Like he was not an ardent supporter of the prior administration, but he like Latin America just thought that because of the color of his skin that he was a nice person, and people didn't really pay attention to what was going on the ground in Syria and what was the effects of the American government and during that time.
Yeah.
That they don't know to this day. Like if I bring it up, they don't believe me. So can you tell us a little bit about how ISIS came to be?
Well, it's an ideology that comes from, the land of Saudi Arabia. So
Hmm.
it's like the Wahhabi ideology. This ideology came from Saudi Arabia. So what happened was this: countries like Saudi Arabia started brainwashing all these youngsters to do the jihad and to, kill in the name of God so that they can go to heaven to their 70 virgins and so on. And countries like America and England and France and UK, they started funding these jihadists. They started sending them money. They started sending them weapons. They started sending them, aid in general. And how do we know this? We know this by, like the Syrian government, for an example, they buy all their weapons from Russia. So most of the
Hmm.
Syrian army, they hold Russian weapons. So like
Hmm.
whenever they would go and attack like areas that ISIS is under the control of, they would after they would liberate the area, they would see that all the weapons that they were having are American-made weapons. They're not Russian-made. So like, how the hell are these weapons entering, Syria? And plus, many
Right.
times they would capture like ISIS and Al-Qaeda members, and after doing like interrogation and investigation with them, they would also, admit that okay, we're getting funded and supported by, America, by the Obama administration. And when the journalists started asking Obama about this stuff, Obama said that he was helping and supporting freedom fighters
I remember those
and
words. I don't
moderate
remember much,
rebels.
but I remember those words. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's on YouTube. You can find the videos. He said that we are sending money and we are funding freedom fighters and moderate rebels.
We
When
believed it.
in reality these freedom fighters are ISIS and Al Qaeda. So if this idiot is calling ISIS freedom fighters, then what the hell is, like, who the hell isn't, like it just doesn't make sense. So they were actually funding ISIS and Al Qaeda in Syria. They were sending them money and weapons, and they were funding them, and they were protecting them. And every time the Syrian army would enter and start hitting these ISIS members, the mainstream media and all these politicians will come out and start saying, "Oh my God, the Syrian government is killing innocent people for no reason and is bombing schools and hospitals," and just start making all these stupid accusations. Why the
The
hell would
chemical
the Syrian
weapons.
government bomb a school or a hospital? Like, isn't that like a public building? If they bomb a school or hospital, who's going to rebuild it again? Isn't it the Syrian government? So like it
Good
just
point.
doesn't make sense, like what the mainstream media was reporting.
I
Yeah,
remember. Go ahead.
I'm done. Yeah, continue.
I
Go ahead.
remember that they did say the freedom fighters thing, and they did show these kids that were supposedly doused in chemical weapons or these
Yeah.
like corrosive chemicals, and that they were hosing the kids. I remember though that you pointed out some logo that was in the back of that shot that that the mainstream media didn't show. Um, can you talk a little bit more about that?
Wait, can you repeat the question? Sorry,
So so there was, I guess, this rumor or this place where they were hosing down some kids that were supposedly doused with the chemical weapons, and
yeah.
they were videotaping and whatever, and then there was this logo in the back of the room that was, I guess, the symbol of some jihadist organization.
Yeah,
Um,
this is the same with the white helmets. It's like the white helmets, they are white helmets by day and jihadists by night. So like in the morning, they would film videos of them, like saving children and saving innocent lives. And then at night, they would remove the hat and the costume, hold weapons, and start fighting along with ISIS and Al Qaeda. And this have been documented a lot here in Syria. But of course, it's
I
almost impossible for the mainstream media to report about this. It's very
right,
impossible to see them reporting about this.
right. I remember that there was some I don't know if it was like independent media or if it was the president's son or I don't know who it was that showed this one little girl being passed around by different people escaping rubble, and people were saying that it was they're crisis actors, like what you're talking about, and the mainstream media completely said they debunked it and didn't believe it. But I'm like, but that's the same little girl being passed around by the same or by three different
Yeah,
guys,
exactly,
different places.
exactly. The crisis actors, you would find a video of this same girl in a city, in let's say the city of Aleppo. They would do a video with this same girl. They'll be like, oh my God, look, the city of Aleppo is getting destroyed and bombed right now. And they would film this girl crying. Then after like 1 week, you would see them showing the same girl, and they would say, "Oh, this is happening in another city right now." Like they have this, they call them like crisis actors,
Mm-hmm.
and they always use children. They always use children so that they
Same with my
can mellow the
people.
heart of the viewers. Yeah, so that them entering another war will be justified. When somebody sees a video of a child crying, they'll be like, you know what, go and bomb the Middle East. They deserve to be bombed. So
Right.
this is their tactic. They use children so that they can let the people accept that they want to send more troops.
I that reminds me, again going on the theme of cultural exchange on this channel. Um, I'm not Mexican, but they are the same ethnicity as I am. We're both Latinos, and so it bothered me when I would see the mainstream media use people that look similar to me for as political pawns. When they would say, "Oh, these kids that are separated from their parents at the border," but much of like what was happening in
Mhm.
Syria, there were reports of people that were smuggling kids into the country, child trafficking, child
Yeah.
sex trafficking is really big on the border, and organ harvesting. Um, and I heard some report that a big majority of the Honduran migrant caravan, of the children that were rescued, really, did not come with their parents. And so
Yeah.
you would see politicians use this as a pretense for propaganda, and it bothered me so much. And in Puerto
I'm
Rico,
going to tell you, like, if somebody is really educated, he would learn that all these cages that were built in America, they were built under the Obama administration. But
you
just
did
to
do a
show
video
you
on
how
that.
Yeah, just to show you how the mainstream media is very biased. It's like when the Obama administration was caging these kids, they didn't report about it and they weren't saying, oh my God, the horror. But as soon as, the Trump administration started doing it, suddenly they started caring about these children being put in cages. Now, me in general, whether the Trump administration or the Obama administration cage children, I think it's wrong to cage children in general. But
Right.
I'm just showing you how the mainstream media is biased. It
Mm-hmm.
depends on who is doing it. If their guy is doing it, they close their eye. And if somebody they hate is doing it, they immediately, talk about it for 2 weeks. So uh, the mainstream media is very biased in America, and you guys are having a very huge problem with, credibility with the mainstream media. Like they lie a lot. This is a very big problem that needs to be solved.
It really does. Puerto Rico was another pawn that was used by the mainstream media, where the mayor of the capital city was the one that you probably saw, the woman with the glasses, the one that you probably saw on all the reporting on Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. She wasn't the governor, and she was putting herself out there, and everybody was looking at her. They weren't looking at what was going on in reality. She was saying that my people were starving, that my people were this, my people, and that no one was helping. But the US government and many people, nonprofits, sent lots of supplies. There were supplies behind her, and she didn't open them. And it's like, what do you need? A box cutter too? And she's saying that the United States are starving her and did nothing for her. Like, unfortunately, people believed it. And then when the president started playing T-shirt launcher and throwing paper towels at a crowd of his fans in Puerto Rico, because that's what I heard, was that there was a group of his fans. It wasn't a good look. I didn't like it. I'm gonna be objective. But at the same time, that's what they focused on, and they didn't focus on this woman who, years later, there was an FBI investigation done where she and other mayors, allegedly her, I don't know her specifically, but many mayors in Puerto Rico hoarded all the supplies that were sent during the hurricane, and let them expire. There was expired water, baby formula, diapers, things that would have been very useful in an emergency. What did they want to do? They said they wanted to distribute them fairly, but nothing was ever distributed.
Mhm.
And so I
Yeah.
have to agree with you. Both our people are really taken advantage of when it comes to the mainstream media. And again, this is the purpose of this show, is to bring perspective, to bring different opinions, and um, we do usually have a pop culture focus, and we do usually focus on like entertainment, the history, the culture. Um, I guess we've talked a lot about doom and gloom, but like you said, Syria wasn't always this way. Syria, I heard that, I think it was Aleppo, was the entertainment capital of Syria. Is that true?
Yeah, yeah, and Damascus is known to be like the oldest continuous inhabited city in the world,
It's true.
Damascus
I heard
city.
that too.
Yeah, like Syria is very rich in culture, very rich in history. You have like many civilizations, many like historical areas. There are areas that are even mentioned in the Bible. For an example, like we have a town in Damascus countryside called Malula. It's one of the most ancient Orthodox Christian towns in the world. And even till today, the people of Malula till today, they still speak the language of Jesus Christ, the Aramaic language. So
Oh,
Syria is
wow.
a very, it's a country that is very rich in culture and history, and it's just so unfortunate that they allowed all these jihadists to destroy it completely.
How
Yeah,
much of the historical structures still remain? Like, does any of it remain, or was it destroyed during the war
no,
stuff?
we still have, thankfully, we still have like historical artifacts and stuff that are
Good.
safe, you know. Like there were many artifacts that got stolen in for an example, the city of Palmyra, but by the jihadists, most of them got smuggled out of the country. But also the Syrian army was able to, get back many of them, and now they
Okay.
are stored in the Damascus National Museum,
Oh,
the
good.
National Museum of Damascus. So I even did a video
I'll have to look at
filming the museum in Damascus, showing like all these old ancient artifacts. So it's like some were destroyed, some were smuggled, and some were, restored. So it's mixed.
And you talked about Aramaic. So Aramaic, did Aramaic originate in Syria?
I'm not sure if it originated in Syria, but like I said, there are towns in Syria that still speak it because they
Interesting.
are like ancient Christian towns.
Okay. And are any other languages spoken in Syria like prominently?
Yeah, like you have the Kurdish language, it's spoken in the northeast of Syria, like in Kurdish places, they speak Kurdish. You have people that speak Armenians, the Armenian Syrians. But of course, like the official language is Arabic. So like everybody speaks Arabic, but you have areas where like people have their own language, like the Kurds, they can speak Kurdish and Armenians. And what else? Let me see. Yeah, then mostly it's all Arabic.
Um, and if I know this is a question from left field probably, but can you briefly like explain how Arabic became to or came to be the official language of Syria? Because I don't think it always was, if I'm not mistaken.
No, no, it wasn't. It wasn't. But you know, like in history, like people would conquer and other stuff. So like eventually Arabs conquered the land of Syria, and then Syria became like a an Arabic country. But if you want to go back in history, like Syria used to be I think it's called like Phoenician or something like that. Like we weren't Arabs before this, like, but we're talking thousands of years ago. So it's like right now Syria's an Arab country, but like before that we weren't Arabs.
So the Phoenician culture was present in Syria too.
Yeah,
You know what's really funny? I don't know. Well, when you get a chance, we did a reading on this podcast with two of the characters of my upcoming novel, The Jewel of Her Desire. And one of the
yeah,
characters is Lebanese, and so you have a Bulgarian and a Lebanese bragging about their countries, and the Lebanese guy says, "Oh we're descended from the Phoenicians, and we created the alphabet." Um, so I thought it was really interesting that you mentioned the Phoenicians and that it wasn't just Lebanon.
yeah.
Was it like a really large territory that they occupied? What was that like, if you know?
Like before like Lebanon and Syria and Jordan and all these countries, like they didn't exist before. They were all one land.
Oh,
But then, you know, yeah, but then with the wars and the British and the French and the Ottomans and all these people conquering the land, like they eventually all got divided. So Lebanon became a country, Syria became another country, Iraq, Jordan, Palestine, Israel, and they all got divided into like bits and pieces. But before, like it used to be all one country. They used to
one
call
of
it
the
in Arabic Bilad, where they used to call it Bilad al-Sham.
oh oh yeah. So I took a little bit of Arabic for one semester in college, and they
Yeah,
had the three tables, the three dialects, uh the Masri, the oh my God, it was the Shami Arabic and Fusha. How can I forget Fusha? And that's like the one that I focused on. Um,
Fusha is like the um, official Arabic language, but like nobody uses it. Like
that's what I
everyone
heard.
has their own. Yeah, like Fusha is like how can I explain it? Fusha is something like Shakespearean English, you know, it's
That's
something
what it
like
makes
that.
sense.
So it's like when you write it, like every Arab country would understand.
Hmm.
Fusha. It's like the official, legitimate Arabic language. But like in Syria, we speak Syrian Arabic. So
Hmm.
Syrian Arabic, it's close to Lebanese Arabic. It's close to Jordanian Arabic. But for an example, countries, African Arab countries like Tunisia or
Morocco,
what
I hear is very different.
Morocco, yeah, like Tunisia or Morocco, like we can't understand each other because
I
like the
heard.
Arabic is just so complicated and it's mixed with French and so on. So it's like maybe
Oh,
the most understood, yeah, so like maybe the most understood Arabic language where like the whole Arab world understands it, it's maybe like the Syrian or the Lebanese.
makes sense. I
Because it's
so
very
what I
simple,
hear
very
is
clear.
so what I hear is that because it's a possibility that if my novel ever becomes a video game, for example, it will probably be anime style. As it just takes me to one of the things my friend said. about how anime is translated in Syria, if I'm not mistaken, and so I think they use the Syrian Arabic to dub anime. Is that correct?
Yeah, there are a lot of I think no, I think maybe they do it with the Fusha Arabic.
They do. Hmm. Oh,
With
it
the
must have been
Fusha
he
Arabic.
must have, go ahead.
Yeah, I think they do it with the Fusha Arabic, the one that I told you it's the official language, so that
Hmm.
maybe all the Arab nations would understand it.
I wonder if he's because this is a while ago he told me this. It must have been that he said it was Syrian actors, maybe, or voice actors.
Yeah, yeah, like there are many like Japanese anime cartoons where like Syrians dubbed the language on top. So yeah, it's true.
And see, that's one of the things that I really wanted to highlight about Syria is that it wasn't always doom and gloom, and like there was a lot of entertainment culture. Well, obviously you're in tune with it because you're a rapper and a comedian. What else is like really popular as far as entertainment culture in Syria?
Well, they have the belly dancing. They have like a type of music called debke. It's where they all like hold hands and they form circles and they dance. Um, a lot of artists, lot of famous like singers in Syria. Um, what else? We have something called the Sufi dance. I'm not sure if you heard about it. It's like where like this man will stand and spin around for like 30 minutes non-stop to like a song where just watching them will make you get dizzy.
Yeah,
So
no, no,
you should
I
research it
will.
after this interview. It's called Sufi dance, Sufi dance. It's really unbelievable how like someone would stand and keep on spinning around like 360 for like 30 minutes non-stop.
How?
Non-stop. I don't understand. I have a video about it, by the way. Like
Oh, good.
you can definitely find it on my page.
All right, I'll post it.
It's a video where I would be in a restaurant with a couple of tourists from the US and Europe, and
Okay.
we were like watching a Sufi dancer, and he was doing it for like 20 minutes nonstop. It's all on video, and he when the dance was over, he took a bow and just walked as if nothing happened. He didn't even
No, no,
trip
no, no, no,
or
no. Oh
I
my God.
swear. Yeah, but they say like this takes years and years and years of training. Like you can't really do it. Like they train these dancers from a very young age. That's how they are able to do it.
Gotcha. I I do know that I have a bias. I have more Lebanese friends than I have Syrian friends, and so of course I was introduced to more of their artists. So I know like Nancy Ajram and whatnot. What are like some really popular Syrian artists? Um, well, currently
Some popular Syrian artists. Okay, you have like someone called Farid al-Atrash. Are you talking like old school or like
oh no,
right now?
like right now, like modern pop. Yeah, modern pop.
Well, they have like a guy called Nasif Zaytoun.
Who?
Nasif Zaytoun. It's like a guy that sings like Arabic pop songs.
Zaytun. That sounds
Who
like
else?
olive, like aceituna in Spanish.
Yeah, something
That
like that. Yeah. Who else? There are a lot, but like to me, I don't really have a favorite like Syrian artist. Mostly, I listen to a lot of English songs, but I'm gonna research them for you.
and
Nasif Zaytoun is one that is like very young. Um, George Wassouf, yeah, George Wassouf is really important. George Wassouf, Asala Nasri, Asmahan, Sabah Fakhri. There's an artist called Sabah Fakhri, but this guy is like somehow old school. But I think he broke the record for performing live the longest in the world. I think
oh
he
wow,
performed live for, yeah, for something more than 7 hours non-stop. Wait,
I gotta
let
look
me
that
make
up.
sure of the timing. The guy's name is Sabah Fakhri. Uh, he did the
There's a lot of
longest
content.
concert in the
Oh,
world.
I was
I
gonna
think
say.
it was something like 6 hours or 7 hours.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy.
Well, I do know that I'm gonna say my memory my memory went. Oh, so I guess we'll go on to a different subject. Um, there was another thing that I saw. Oh, I just remembered. I was gonna say that when you talked about American media or American entertainment, uh, one of your most popular videos when you were beating up Eminem. Remember that
Yeah,
one?
that video went viral. I think it reached something like 5 million
Yeah,
views in America.
yeah.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
it was great because again, what I like to do, because I'm technically an immigrant, even though like Puerto Rico is a legal territory, but technically I come from a party view, here in America, and I'm just like, you guys really don't get it. Like, you don't have to be this divided. And when you were emphasizing that, I'm like, dude, they're making fun of us in Syria, like how we're being divided, and just the way I see it happening, or how it might happen now. I I don't want NATO to come in here and start trying to rescue us. Um,
I don't think NATO will ever think of like entering America. I don't think they have the power to do so. Like America is stronger than NATO. I think even America pays like a huge amount of money to fund
we
NATO.
do,
So
we do.
don't worry about that. Yeah, but don't worry about that. But like America is really, really divided, especially right now. It's like you have a lot of people that would immediately unfriend you if they see that you have a different point of view, you
All the
know?
time.
And it's like crazy, and it's from both sides, you know? It's like it even happens with me on Facebook. Like sometimes if I shared something criticizing a Republican, I would see
Mhm.
a Democrat or telling me, you know what, I'm gonna unfollow you. And if I post something, you know, criticizing Donald Trump or a Republican, you would find like a Republican sending me a message telling me, you know, I didn't like what you said about Trump. I'm gonna unfollow you. You know, it's like you guys need to learn how to um, tolerate one another because look, it's natural for people to have different political opinions. So it doesn't mean it doesn't mean that when you find someone you disagree with politically that you automatically have to become enemies or have to be
Right.
friends. I'll give you an example. Like when was it? I think it was the day before yesterday. Yesterday was the day yesterday. I posted that the mainstream media declared Joe Biden to be the president of America. And some woman sent me a message telling me, you know, I'm gonna unfollow your page for posting that. I'm like, honey, I'm just reporting the news. I'm just reporting the news.
Right.
I'm not
Right.
creating this news. You know, the whole world right now is saying that Joe Biden has reached more than 270 votes. So I am just posting that right now Joe Biden is the projected winner of the presidential election. They started telling me, oh, there is a cheating, there's a fraud, and I'm like, yes, it's very possible that the Democratic Party cheated. You know, this is not the first time that they cheated. Like I witnessed them cheat Bernie Sanders in 2016. So it's not like
Hmm.
they are angels that they don't do it.
Right.
No, it's very possible that they did it. But right now there is no proof that they completely cheated. We have to wait for them to do the investigation and to do the recount and to see whether dead people voted or illegal people voted and do the recount. And then after the recount, we can then form our own opinion and see. If
Right.
let's say Joe Biden cheated, then yes, he cheated, and then Donald Trump will eventually win. If they do
Right.
the recount and it turns out that there was no cheating, then yes, Joe Biden will be the next, you know,
Exactly.
president. This is just facts. There's no
Right.
need for people to always like stay divided and fight each other. Like right now, me, if you look at my Facebook page for an example, you would find a lot, like thousands and thousands of Trump supporters, and you would also find thousands and thousands of Trump haters. It's on both ways, and
Right.
I accept everyone, and I allow everyone to enter my page and say whatever they want. Like inside my page, you would find people that love America and people that hate America. You would find people that love Iran and hate Iran. You would find people that love Assad and hate Assad. You
Right.
would find Christians, you would find Jews, you would find Muslims, you would find atheists, people in the far left, people in the far right. I allow everybody to enter my page and I allow everybody to discuss and have a debate and conversation.
Right.
I don't kick anybody out just because they have a different opinion than me. That's not the way for it to work. But unfortunately, this is the situation for the Americans right now. It's like you're either with me or against me. They can't coexist. You have
It's
people, you know, you have
it's
people like from the same family fighting
yes.
on the dinner table just because this one voted for Joe Biden and the other one voted for Trump.
Yeah.
So it's just ridiculous.
It's really bad because they buy into this team sports mentality. Would you believe? I don't know if this happens in any other country in the world. You can have Republican beans, Republican pillows, Democrat pants, Democrat tires, and so it's like, why? Why? We need all these products, and particularly in the Latino community, I saw this huge divide, and like I take this personally. It's like when they boycotted Goya, I'm like, Goya is my people's food. Like, why are you attacking my people's food? Uh, the president of their like, stop bankrupting a Latino company and putting Latino people on food stamps, like impoverishing the Latino people. Because if you boycott Goya, and fortunately they actually did better, um, the people that they say, because like with Syria, they say they want to help us, but they really screw us over in more ways than one. And it's like, stop lying to me, number one, and stop patronizing me. And talking about patronizing, I saw something that I don't know, it was a comment or a post that you made that you said that there was vote. Oh, I think you were probably commenting on Anomaly's video on one of his live streams. That you talked about how there's voter ID in Syria, and
Yeah,
you remember that one?
yeah. It's a
Um,
post on my page.
okay, so with that, I'm like, why is it such a weird thing? Like, in my island, and we're a very tiny island, and we come in all different colors. My mother's white skin, my dad's black skin, and I'm this color. And first of all, no one cares. Not since like the '60s, so we don't have that issue like America does, or the mainland America does. Second of all, we've had voter ID for a long time, and I don't know if you heard this, but the reason why they say that voter ID is not a good idea is because they say that it's racist.
What?
Like, they say that voter ID is racist, and that's why I prefaced it with like my skin color, my parents. They say it's racist
That's
because
ridiculous.
there are videos out there. They'll justify everything with children and racism. Apparently, they said that it's racist because black people don't have access to the internet to find out where to get ID.
Now that statement is the racist statement.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
You would, yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. Like in Syria, we vote through like voter ID. Like you would go, you would show your ID, you would vote for who you want, and then you would use like the ink mark on your fingers just so that you wouldn't go to another county and vote again. And that's it.
Boom.
There's no need for all these complications that is happening in America. Like America, the voting process is very complicated and like they overdo all this stuff. Just go
Hmm.
vote in person with your voter ID and that's it.
Yeah.
But like, with the mail-in ballots and all the even online
Oh, people want to do online
voting
voting. It's
stuff
like
like
you complain about Russia hacking the election, but if that's the thing, don't you think some Russian hacker can hack your vote if it's voting online? And so
Exactly. It's
it's just
just funny. It's just funny, like when the Democrats lost in 2016, they were saying that the Russia hacked and Russia intervened and a foreign country intervened and messed with our election process. But this year, because they won, they were like, "It's how dare you question the legitimacy of our voting process and so on." So
right.
it's like a lot of hypocrisy that is happening right now in
Yeah.
America. And like to me
It
as an outsider, I'm just watching, doing some popcorn, watching and being entertained because like to me this is like a reality show. It
it
doesn't
really
even
is.
look real.
It doesn't.
By
It
the way,
doesn't.
as
I
an
like I feel unsafe. And
by
the
the
thing
way,
is,
you as an sorry,
go ahead.
continue,
No, go
continue.
ahead.
Nothing.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you, like
So
you as an
uh-huh.
American, do you think like this whole recount thing is gonna change the outcome of the election?
It has there was precedent for it in the year 2000. Al Gore
Al
was
Gore?
announced president, and for 37 days there was litigation, and it ended up being that it was the election went badly, and so Al Gore was not president and Bush was installed. Um,
Yeah.
and so Pennsylvania, I hear, is has a history of having like voter fraud. They had, or not, I don't want to say voter fraud. They had many issues with their vote counting. Even on
Mm.
that day. But what I coming as an outsider, kind of, to this country, the electoral college didn't make any sense to me. And then I read up on it, heard some educational videos, and I'm like, holy crap, this makes sense. So when you
Yeah,
look,
I thought so too. Like I was like the electoral college is useless, but then also I remember doing more research about it, and it turns out like it without the electoral college, you know, cities like California and New York would always be the ones who would choose the next president because of the amount of population they have. So like the electoral college is there to give Middle America an equal voice.
mm-hmm,
So yeah, I didn't know about that much, but then when I did more research, I found it. But because it's just so strange for most of the foreigners, because I think America is the only country that uses the electoral
yeah.
college process. Most of the countries in the world they go with the popular votes, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. What I found interesting also is the way the laws are set up, and like I said, this channel's about culture, not politics, but this is, I guess, the laws and the civics of this country fall under the umbrella of culture. The way it's being painted now, and the way they're describing the laws is every state holds an election and they present their results to the federal government, and then it's decided. Like if we were to do it like on paper and there was no internet, like that would be how it would be decided. Every state decides, submit their results, and that would be it. Um, and so other countries see it as popular vote because it's all one country. But because it's 50 states, it's kind of like 50 different governments that are
Yeah,
like coming into an agreement. And I'm like, the United States is a really unique country in that regard. Like, it made no sense a long time ago. And it's like, when they put in that perspective, like, ah, because the rules that apply in Nevada's electoral process is not the same that applies in Pennsylvania or Hawaii. Like each one has their freedoms. And like the American Constitution, the way it was written, I'm like, holy crap, like there are a lot of fail safes. So if someone cheats or does anything, they would have to jump through so many hoops to cheat. But it has been done. I just can't imagine what it would be like otherwise. Um,
mm,
for example, I went to California this summer for my birthday during the coronavirus, unfortunately. And I went to a red county and a blue county. And again, this is not a political endorsement. This is just like what my eyes saw. Los Angeles, blue county, very, very progressive, very liberal. I went to Orange County, which is a Trump-loving county, and they didn't even care about wearing masks. Um, and you would see such a stark difference. The people in Orange County, they were at the beach, they were having fun, they were just chill, everything was clean, all the businesses were open, nothing was boarded up, people were just living life. And people had money. And I heard people in California say, "Oh, those are the rich people." No, like you would see like immigrants, like Mexican immigrants that loved America, that got their American dream and opened their businesses and lived well in Orange County. I went to LA County and I went to Hollywood. Treka, feces on the floor, homeless people everywhere, tent cities. It looked like India. It looked like Calcutta. I'm like, this is a third
Wow.
world country in the richest county in the state and probably the country, where all the
Mm.
celebrities are, and you see such poverty that like I can't imagine. Like when I say tent cities, I mean like you would have to look hard in downtown LA to find a street where there weren't homeless people living. Like it,
Yeah, yeah. Like California is having a lot of homelessness. It's having like a homeless crisis. Like wherever you go, you would find people homeless living in the street, like hundreds and hundreds of people like sleeping in the streets or like camping in the streets. And yeah, it's ridiculous. Like it's sad to see, to be honest. Yeah, there's a huge difference between like the areas where Trump is in, you have Trump supporters and areas where you have liberals or so on. Like I noticed like the Trump supporters, they're against the idea of masks and social distancing, and they just want the whole country to reopen so that
mhm,
they can get on with their life and their businesses to open again. While the people that are with the Democrats, for an example, they're still with the idea of masks and social distancing and lockdowns and so on.
mhm.
And it's like the country right now is completely divided.
And
But
what
it's funny.
like
It's funny how when this is the hypocrisy that's always happening in America. And like when I see it, I always laugh. Which is, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, like whenever Trump used to hold rallies, and like 15, 20,000 people would come and watch. The Democrats and the mainstream media would always be like, look at these people, they're
overspread.
all spreading coronavirus and they're not social distancing and they're not wearing masks and so on. They're just making the problem worse and worse and worse. And then when Joe Biden won, they all filled the streets celebrating, and the Democrats and the mainstream media suddenly didn't have a problem with crowds gathering anymore. They were like, oh, look, they're celebrating and so on. They didn't mention the idea of social distancing. And as you noticed, like nobody's talking about coronavirus anymore.
No,
Did
it's
you
gone.
hear any? Yeah, it's
It's
gone. It's over, right?
I they said they said that you can now go into indoor concerts. That studies say that it's now safe to go to indoor concerts the week of the election. And I'm not spreading a conspiracy theory. I would like some questions answered. But also
Yeah.
the fact that I heard a woman was she opened a bottle and started drinking from it and passing it around to the crowd. And I'm like, that's worse than breathing in someone's presence. Like that was really like heavy on masks. What happened? Like,
Yeah.
did Corona really left? Apparently, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
still trying to be cautious. Um, but
Yeah, it's a lot of hypocrisy going on.
I saw also in California, and this is another reason why I find that the Electoral College makes sense in America is the people in LA seem to be happy with their lockdowns, with the homelessness. They seem to be okay with what was going on. And it's like, okay, you have the freedom to live your life the way you want. This is you like LA. I talked to LA people, they like it that way. The people in Orange County, they like it that way. And so what I really found interesting about America is that America was founded on the government needs to stay out of my business, can't tell me what to do, just let me live my life. And each county makes its rules, each city makes its rules, each state makes its rules. They don't like people in one area impose their values on another one. And so that is really one of the other reasons why the Electoral College is so useful, because Iowa, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Maine, all these states that no one ever hears about, um, they are subject to the same rules that New Yorkers and Californians are subject to. The New Yorkers and the Californians might like it, but the people in South Dakota, Iowa, Wyoming, they don't like it. And so this system, it might not be the greatest ever, but it gives them a fair shot. What do you see as far as like in Syria, as far as like the people? Because I know that yes, there's like jihadists and whatnot, but like with the common people, is there this level of division? Like how knowing now how diverse religiously and culturally Syria is, what is it like with interpersonal relationships?
Well, thankfully in Syria, like people are not divided like in America, because you have people from different religions and different backgrounds. They all coexist. They all live together. It's not like you have like, for example, in my neighborhood, you have people from all religion living together. Like the other day,
Um,
like we had a couple of friends in my house, and everyone we just noticed, oh look, everyone is from a different city and from a different religion, and like these are questions that we don't normally ask each other, you know. Um,
right.
right now in Syria, it's not about a division in political ideologies or religious. It's only like divided when it comes to, do you support ISIS or do you support your country? You know, you have
Hmm.
people that, yeah, because like now ISIS, they don't represent Syria. They don't represent us. They don't represent the Syrian people. They represent all these warmongers like Turkey, like Saudi Arabia, like Qatar, like NATO countries. They don't support the Syrian people, or because they were funded by the West. They were funded by outsiders, by Turkey, by Saudi Arabia, by Qatar and Gulf countries. They were sending them money, weapons, and all this stuff. So, like to us Syrians, when we look at ISIS and Al Qaeda, we don't see ourselves. We see people that are brainwashed, that are many of the ISIS members are actually not also Syrian. They come from other countries like Afghanistan, like
That.
Libya, like Iraq, like Sudan. So it's an ideology. It's not like a national uh, problem. It's an ideological problem. So you could be from any country. If you have the Wahhabi ideology, you are qualified to join. So in Syria right now, we don't have this division. Like right now, it's safe to say like the majority of the Syrian people in Syria, we are focused on liberating the city of Idlib from the jihadists and the terrorist groups. And second of all, the next thing that we are focused on is trying to find a way how we can remove these economic sanctions that have been imposed on Syria.
Right.
Like we don't have like a civil war, or like Christians killing Muslims or Muslim
Right.
killing Jews. No, we don't have this problem right now. Our
Right.
problem is with terrorism and economic sanctions and foreign countries inside our country. Like this is the main problems that the Syrian people are facing right now.
It's almost like people are using Syria as their stage, and Syrian people are like the audience, and it's like, who invited you? And people don't
Exactly.
understand how interventionism. I mean, people can have their opinions on something, but in another breath, you can't impose your will on other people. And
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but you talked about earlier about the Syrian refugee crisis, and I got a lot of insight from your videos where you said, listen, it's better for you to help us stay in our country. We don't want to go to your countries. We don't want to leave our homes. But you would hear this message
Mhm.
in America that basically one side of the political aisle wanted to bring everybody from all around the world into America. Why? What if they
Yeah.
like their homes? Like, I like being in America, but it would be nice if I could be in my own island and live a good life. But I choose to be here. But not everybody wants to leave Syria. Like, could you speak a little bit
Yeah,
about that?
exactly. This is Yeah, what I was saying in that video is this, is that the West right now, they are divided into two. You know, the first half is saying that we should bring in more Syrian refugees into our country. And the second half is saying that we should not bring Syrian refugees into our country. So what I told them is this, you guys shouldn't be fighting on whether to bring in or not bring in refugees to your country. You guys should try to find a way to keep the Syrian people inside their country and not allow them to give them a reason for them to leave their country. So, in order for you guys to do that, the first thing the West have to do is to stop funding jihadists in Syria, and second
Yeah,
of all, to remove the economic sanctions. Because
yeah, that too.
if they do these two things, there wouldn't be a refugee crisis in the first place, and it would immediately stop. But because like right now you can't really blame a Syrian for leaving Syria, because first of
Right,
all you're living in a war zone, so your life
right,
is always and constantly in danger. And some people, you know, they have their wife, they have their children, they want to raise their children in a safe environment so that
right.
they can have a bright future. So they have to leave. And second of all, you have the economic sanctions. So even if you are living in a safe area where there is no terrorism, you're also suffering every day because of the economic sanctions. The
Right,
salaries are all very low and they're always the same, while the prices in the market every 2 weeks, every week, it gets higher and more
right.
expensive. You can't make money online. You can't import, you can't export. There are many, many things that these economic sanctions there are many doors that these economic sanctions are closing for on a Syrian. So you can't really blame any Syrian for leaving the country, for immigrating or seeking asylum.
Right.
But the West shouldn't fight over whether they should bring in or not bring in refugees. The West should really try to find a way to stop the flow of these refugees into the West and America and so on. And the way to do this is to stop funding ISIS and to stop sending them weapons. And second of all is to remove the economic sanctions.
Hmm. I um I remember. Again, I don't know if it was your videos where people were posing as Syrians and
Yeah, it's
go,
my video.
go, going into countries and committing crimes like rape and like violent crimes and even jihad. And they would say they're Syrian. It's like Syrians got a really bad name, and it was really like my people actually, well, or people that look like me. Like, it was the Hondurans that came here, but they would be this like big group of people that were walking across land masses and going into countries, and you're not going to tell me that bad people are not going to infiltrate that group and hide amongst the people
Of
that need
course,
help. And and
of
and
course, yeah.
so there was so much devastation in Europe and in America too, done by these posers. And it's like Syrian people do need help. Like if they need help, like yes, but check out the people that are coming in to make sure that they're who they say they are. And a lot of us Latinos, like we understand this, and so we don't like. A lot of when we hear the rhetoric of, oh well, we should let everybody like in the southern border. It's like there are people that need help, and there are people that are refugees, and there are people that need asylum. Yes, but please, for example, with the kids, keep them separate from child smugglers and rapists and people who are about to sell their organs. I heard this broke me. There was this one girl from Guatemala who was in that caravan and was raped, 12 years old. They found 20, and this is graphic, 20 different semen samples inside that little girl. And
That's fucked up.
you ask yourself, like, is this really what you want to happen? Because my people are suffering, and you guys are just enabling it by using us as propaganda. And that girl is traumatized for the rest of her life. Um, and then you have like you were saying, like the cages. They only showed that, and then I saw an independent reporter that this really wasn't put on the media. They showed the actual like ICE facilities, and the reporter was like, "This is nicer than anything I've ever lived in Chicago." They had Xbox, they had Zumba, they had air conditioning, they had free food, and they didn't have to do chores if they didn't want to. The thing is that there was like a building can only hold so much people. Like let's say it can hold 50, 100 people. If you have 11,000 people that are like, knock, knock, let us in, people are gonna get lost. There's gonna be a lot of confusion, and not everybody's going to be housed. And so people are put into situations, and then my people are stuck in the middle of all of it. And you have politicians fighting left and right. It's like, oh well, we're gonna do this. Listen, do what's best for the people and stop using people. Stop using us for your propaganda. Um,
Exactly.
it bothers me. I really hope that people start to listen to more content creators online, and again, it's not conspiracy theory. Like you presented evidence when you were talking about the white helmets and whatnot. Like it's not like, oh my God, like Area 51 alien stuff.
Yeah.
Um, any comment before we move on to next segment?
No, no, I agree with what you were saying.
Okay, so again, we've gone like light and dark, light and dark. Let's end on a lighter note.
Yeah.
So again, I talked earlier about like the novel that I'm writing and hopefully will come out next year. And America is really big on making superheroes and everything like people that look like us, and no straight white men in any media, as if anybody cared who Batman sleeps with or what Batman looks like. Um, but nonetheless, I'm like, there needs to be more positive representation of people in the Middle East, for example. And it was in honor of my Middle Eastern friends. I'm like, I put um, most of the main cast to be half or completely Middle Eastern, both on the villain and the hero side. So look out for that. As well as Puerto Ricans, obviously, I have to put my people in there, and but I did that because I wanted to, but a lot of American media does it to score brownie points, and like they'll take an established character and remake them. Like for example, they took Miss Marvel, made her Captain Marvel, and then put in a Pakistani girl to be Miss Marvel. It's like, okay, she's a good character, but she could have been her own person and could have used a different name. Like, what's your perspective on that?
Exactly. I don't know. I think it's ridiculous. Like keep the characters like they are. Like I think I also remember something like the mermaid. They
Oh
wanted to
yeah.
make the mermaid Ariel. Yeah, like I think an African American or something like that. It's
Hmm.
like to me, I don't really care about this stuff. Like you can make her an Indian, a Chinese, or whatever. I don't really care because I'm not going to watch it either way. You know, whether they keep Ariel as the redhead or they make her an African American. I'm not going to watch it either way. But it's all this. I think it's part of like culture appropriation or something. Like, why don't they just create a new character? Like instead of reinventing Ariel, the mermaid, as an African American, whatever stuff. Why don't they just create a new cartoon making an African American like the hero or something? But
Right.
like I told you, like this stuff, I don't really care about it because, like, to me, it's just ridiculous. Like, whether they make Batman a Chinese man or they make him an Indian or a white man,
Right.
like, in general, I don't really watch these kinds of movies. So, yeah. They're just trying to always look politically correct and considerate. Like to me, I don't really, I'm not really interested in the politically correct presentation of stuff. I don't mind. Like, For
Right.
example, Borat. Did you watch like the Borat new movie?
I haven't watched
Like a
it.
lot
I
of
hear it's
people,
like controversial, but
yeah,
yeah,
like
I guess
a
I'll
lot
watch
of
it.
people would find like his humor, a lot of people would find like his humor to be somehow offensive or so on. But like to me, I don't find it offensive. Like the offensive part that he does, like I find it funny. Like to me, to be honest, it's maybe because I'm a comedian or because
Yeah.
I have a thick skin, but like the people in the West right now, it's like they're very sensitive to very silly stuff. Like it's not worth the rage, the outrage.
And the thing is, so two things. So they say, okay, let's make Middle Eastern characters. So they make Green Lantern. First he was white, then they made him black, and then they made a Middle Eastern one and a Latino one. Um, and so it was a Lebanese guy, and his backstory is he's accused of terrorism. Like anything outside that context, and I'm not gonna lie, like there is a character in my novel that like in the backstory there's an accusation, yes, but that's not like the whole thing, and that was just because some guy was being racist, but nonetheless, like it's not like everything. Like it was more like, well, I'm not gonna give the story. But it's it's not everything about it. Like it's not a token, it's not a stereotype. It's not like the story doesn't revolve around that. But it seems like when they make stories of non-white characters, the story revolves all around their race and nothing else. When you see that, like, what's your reaction?
I think they know that when they do that, they're gonna create engagement and outrage. Like I think they know that like they say like no public every publicity is good publicity, whether it's
Right,
negative or positive. So like
right,
I think like the people that create these kinds of stories, like maybe with the mermaid one, like maybe they know that okay, if we make the Ariel the mermaid like an African American, first of all, there are gonna be a lot of people outraged and they're gonna be talking, no, Ariel is white, she shouldn't, and she's redhead, she shouldn't be an African American. So like they know like a lot, thousands and thousands of people are gonna be doing this, which means more publicity for their own movie. Like
right,
people that didn't know about the movie will hear about the movie because of
right,
this
right,
outrage that happened. So
right.
I think they deliberately do this for like publicity or to make the movie known to the public more. So I think it's like a smart strategy that they do. I think
So
so.
on the subject of cultural appropriation, which I think is personally, I think it's a dumb thing. Like when I hear
Hmm.
a white or a black person playing my music, I'm like, hey, I hear apparently Despacito, which is from my island, Puerto Rico, made it to Syria, and I was like, okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
what's your perspective on that subject? Like if you hear someone trying to learn Arabic or listening to Arabic music, like what will your reaction be?
Oh, I would like it. You know, it's fun. Like to me, I've learned also stuff from foreign countries, and you know, it's part of being human. You know, there's nothing wrong with appreciating other people's culture, traditions, or language, or music, or art. You know, at the end of the day, you know, like we are all human beings. You know, whether you're Latino or Arab or African or European, Caucasian or Asian, you know, it's that's even part of how that's even in my opinion that's why like you know the human race is like very interesting because like you get to see all these different cultures, different languages, different music, different religions, different ideology, and you get to learn. And it, it doesn't mean if you're Latino you have to be stuck with only the Latino music and art and
I
tradition
know.
and language. No, you can learn other languages, you know. At the end of the day, it's just a skin color and
Right,
it's a location. You
right.
know, at the end of the day, we're all one human race. So I don't really find anything wrong with learning or appreciating other people's culture. Like to me, honestly, like when you were asking me like who's your favorite Syrian artist, like it took me a little while for me to remember because like normally I listen to mostly, like Western music. Like I like
Mhm.
rock and roll and I like hip hop and I also like a lot of African music and I listen to almost everything, when it comes to music. So it's nice for people to learn the Arabic language because like the Arabic language is also one of the most spoken languages in the world, because
Mhm.
you have many countries. The whole Middle East speak Arabic, and
Right.
most of the Islamic, countries also speak Arabic because in
Right.
order to read the Quran, you have to understand Arabic. So
Right.
there's nothing wrong, with learning other people's cultures and languages and so on. I find there's nothing wrong about it, of course not.
I think that the whole idea is really divisive, and when I hear white people, because I'm gonna be rude, but it's white people that promote this ideology. I'm like, you're making people be afraid of listening to my music. You're cutting customers from Latino artists. Number one. Number two, you're making people afraid of even addressing somebody's culture, and so you're reducing curiosity. And this is one of the things that gets me the most. And again, the purpose for this channel, racism often happens when you're not exposed enough to a person of a certain background. Like a lot of the misconceptions about the Middle East, like especially when I was in Puerto Rico, like I had them too. I didn't know so many of these things. Like I didn't know there were Christians there. I didn't know that pistachio nuts apparently originated in Syria. I love pistachios. I have to go there and try all your
Mm,
desserts that are awesome. Um, there's
mm,
so many things that aren't known, and it's like take a moment to number one, ignore cultural appropriation. Two, get to know people, and you'll realize number one, people don't care about that, and number two, you'll be better for it. Um,
mhm,
I remember, and I'll finish with this. There was there's a scene, another backstory scene in my novel where there's this Lebanese boutique owner who is um, he has like this is like his fifth one, and he opens it in LA, and he misgenders a transgender person, and so like there's this big riot that ensues. Um, and so I presented this to a group of beta readers or not or fellow writers actually, and they lost their minds. They're like, "Oh, you can't offend a trans person like that." I'm like, if trans person are people, which trans person are people, people can be good and people can be bad, and so it stands to reason that they can definitely do that type of thing. And um, what was interesting to me is that the Arab immigrant in the story, who they to a few years ago they loved Middle Eastern immigrants. All of a sudden, they didn't give a damn if the character burned. Like, and like if people keep segmenting us into these groups, it's like you're bound to play favorites, and then you're gonna be dividing people into competition. It's like in my mind, I'd be like, oh, if I was if I was any Middle Eastern immigrant or refugee, I'd be like, didn't you care about us years ago? Like, why are you letting these people burn my business? Why are you pushing me out? And it's like, I've had people say that I act like a rich white man. I
mm,
I'm from the countryside of Puerto Rico. Like I lived in a house that had no running water, that had no
mm,
heating, that like very country. And so they come with these ideas, and it's like, listen, stop talking for us and listen to us. Um,
mhm.
on that note, I'll give you the last word. Um, what's something that you want people to know about Syria um, going forward?
Well, what I want people to know about Syria. Well, Syria is a country that is going through 10 years of war right now. We have been suffering the acts of terrorism, and the reason these terrorists expanded was because they were funded by outside countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Qatar, America, and NATO countries. This is the reason why they got strong. It's not because they have support inside Syria. Second of all, thankfully, 85% of Syria is now completely liberated from these jihadists. All that's remaining is a city called Idlib, so it's only a matter of time until we are able to liberate it. Third of all, I would like them to know more about the economic sanctions that the West has imposed on Syria and how these economic sanctions are really causing is really making life very difficult for the Syrian people. Like I said earlier, that the salaries are still the same, but the prices outside are always getting more expensive. You can't import, you can't export, you can't make money online, you can't even make like a GoFundMe account to help. Um, um, yeah, like these are the two most important things that I want the people to know about Syria. Like they should do more research. It doesn't mean that the current Syrian government are angels. Of course, there's a lot of corruption inside the current Syrian government, but the current Syrian government is who is fighting these jihadists. They are the ones that are fighting these extremist jihadists. And under the current Syrian government, who is corrupted, by the way, but under this current Syrian government, minorities are protected, women have
Right.
equal rights as men, homosexuals and atheists are not oppressed, women can wear whatever they want, they can work whatever they want. You find here in Syria women working in politics,
Oh wow.
doctors, in restaurants, artists, dancers, like everything is allowed for women, and this is something people don't know. So they should stop believing what the mainstream media is reporting about Syria, because what the mainstream media wants the people to do is to accept the idea of more wars, more troops in Syria, and so on. So the people need to do more research. I have many videos on my page where I explain many things about the Syrian crisis. And plus, in something like 2 weeks or 10 days, like between 10 days and 2 weeks, I'm going to be posting a new video. It's like a song. It's a
Mm-hmm.
rap song that I wrote,
Mm-hmm.
explaining the current situation in Syria. And
Okay.
it's
I
like
will
a
post it.
song, yeah, it's a song like explaining the situation in Syria from a Syrian perspective. So it's a song that I am proud of because it's not a comedy song, to be honest. It's a
Oh,
song that I told you, yeah, it's not a comedy song. It's like a rap song, but I'm really proud of it because, like, in it, I explain almost every single thing that people living abroad need to know about the life of a Syrian right now.
okay.
So it should be out in less than 2 weeks. I already finished recording it, but
Awesome.
it still needs mixing and so on. So maybe like in a week it will be ready. I'll do like a music video for it and post it on my social media
Awesome.
account. It's going to be very like educative. A lot of people will learn a lot about Syria in this
Awesome.
song.
Well, an artist's work is never done. I mean, books and music are very complicated and very different, but you go through so many revisions and edits, and oh, it's a process. So I have a great appreciation for artists of all kinds. Um, so and last thing, one food item and one artist that you want from Syria that you want people to check out.
Repeat the question, sorry.
For the listeners, recommend one food item and one song or artist that you want people to check out.
Hmm. Well, in Syria we have a lot of delicious food. I mean, have you heard of shawarma?
Oh, I love it. We do have it here.
Yeah, shawarma. Yeah, like the Syrian version of shawarma is very, very delicious. A famous song, Syrian famous song. Wait, let me think. Hmm.
I put him on the spot. I'm sorry.
What?
I put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
No, no, it's okay, but I'm trying like to think. But the problem is like no matter which Syrian song I say, like nobody's going to understand the language. But
True.
I'm trying to think of a Syrian song to recommend. Hmm. I
Or an
don't know.
artist.
George Wassouf. Listen to a
George
guy
Russell.
called George Wassouf. Like he has some cool songs.
All right, I will look up his top songs and I'll probably post a video or something. So that
Yeah,
is all
sure.
for today. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been awesome. I've learned a lot. I hope you can join us again. I hope next time we hear better news from Syria. Um,
Hopefully, yeah.
yeah. And for all the listeners, you can follow me on this page, obviously, facebook.com/YG Garcia author. You can follow me on Instagram at YG Garcia underscore author. And then YG at YG Garcia author on Twitter. I do have some character art of some of my characters for the novel on Instagram. Look it up. And I think it's going to be a really interesting novel, and it's going to probably give Power Rangers a run for their money. It is that genre. It's not the same thing, but it covers so many untold stories. I think a lot of people will feel identified in them. But that is all. Thank you again, and good night.
Bye, my friend.
Bye.